afternoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. We do have breaking news coming out of Israel today. It's actually Rome that has made this announcement here. Jimmy DeYoung's news update site there, prophecytoday.com, actually published the article that Brother Chris sent to me yesterday, or actually late last night there. The Vatican demands control of a large section of the old city of Jerusalem. This is nothing new, actually. The Vatican has actually been demanding to turn Jerusalem into an international city as early as 1949. And of course, even back before the French Revolution, there was that those type pushes taking place to turn Jerusalem into an international city even then. But of course the French Revolution helped quell that. Once the Vatican fell and got their own deadly wound, of course, I say that because the Vatican is the head of all the world's religion, the head of all the world's governments, and once the head had been wounded, I think that's where you see your prophecy about the head wound. Nonetheless, they did revive. They've come back in very strong power once again, dominating the world. Pope Francis has clearly made that clear. In light of modern news that is going on now, one thing, and I don't say that it's the mark of the beast, but it certainly is a very clear prophetic sign that the Vatican has control of everything in the world. The Sunday observant law is coming into full swing in Europe. January the 1st of 2016, it will be enforced here in the Czech Republic. Which will, in several other countries here in the European Union. In fact, all European states will finally be under the Sunday law by Vatican demand. There's been a tremendous amount of protest on this. CT24 News here in the Czech Republic has been airing this. There have been a lot of businesses. I say protests. The businesses are the ones that are fighting it. They said we cannot survive without a Sunday shopping day. And so there's a lot of uproar over it, but it is law now. It does go into effect on January 1st, 2016. All the European Union nations, as far as what I can tell thus far, will now finally be under the Sunday observant law. And of course, the United States is also taking this up as something that will be enforced in the United States. And even Israel has considered this as a law in their own country. So it's getting very interesting to see just how far the Vatican can throw its weight and its arm on the people. Anyway, before we go into the article here by Jimmy DeYoung about the demands of the Vatican to control a large portion of the old city there, let me take you back in time just a little bit here. This article here by Giulio Miotti exposed the Vatican wants to lay its hands on Jerusalem. The Vatican is now reiterating demands for control of religious sites in Jerusalem. Jordan's occupation 1948 to 1967 didn't bother them. That's kind of interesting. In other words, during that period of time, they didn't really care. Anyway, we see here the Vatican and the old city there pictured in the photograph that Giulio used here in the photo here. Says peace negotiations in the Middle East must tackle the issue of the status of the holy sites of Jerusalem. Cardinal Jean-Louis Tauran, head of the Vatican's Council of Interreligious Dialogue, declared several days ago in Rome the Vatican's former minister asked to place some Israeli holy places under Vatican authority, alluding to the synagogue on Mount Zion in the Garden of Gethsemane and the foot of the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. The first site also houses what is referred to as King David's tomb. There will not be peace if the question of the holy site is not adequately resolved, Turan said. There will not be peace. Now, let's back up just for a moment on this. So the Vatican foreign minister asked to place some Israeli holy places under Vatican authority, alluding to synagogue on the Mount Zion and the Garden of Gethsemane at the foot of the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. The first site also houses what is referred to as the King David's tomb. Now, Turan here, this is the Cardinal. He says here, there will not be peace if the question of the holy site is not adequately resolved. Excuse me, who is inciting the violence in Israel is the Vatican itself. from his own mouth, Cardinal Jean-Louis Touran is guilty of inciting the violence in Jerusalem. The Intifada is not incited by the Palestinians. It is clear right from the mouth of the Vatican's own spokesman that there won't be peace is from the Vatican itself. All right? The part of Jerusalem within the walls with the holy sites and the three religions is humanity's heritage. The sacred and unique character of the area must be safeguarded, and it can only be done with a special international guaranteed statute. You know, I mean, how clear do you have to get? Here he is. You can see it on your screen there. Cardinal Jean-Louis Touran at the top of the site there. That's his name. He's the head of the Vatican's Council for Interreligious Dialogue, declared several days ago, and I believe this article here may have been from 2011. Now, the Vatican did get the Temple Mount, or excuse me, the Mount Zion already. They've gotten that already, but they haven't got everything that they want. But he states here, there will not be peace if the question of the holy sites is not adequately resolved. There's not going to be peace? So who's going to do the fighting then? Kind of like the United States is doing in Syria. The United States just arms a bunch of rebels in order to attack Assad's regime over there. Well, it's no different. The Vatican just uses the Palestinians to attack the Jews. So if you don't do what the Vatican says, the Vatican promises Israel there will not be peace. It's exactly what we're seeing. The Israeli government and the Vatican are deadlocked in the discussions over the status of the religious sites. Vatican officials are now reiterating their demand for control over the religious sites in an ancient holy city founded by King David as the capital of the ancient Israel, now the capital of the reestablished Jewish state. Okay? This is absurd. You know, did anybody pay attention other than Giulio Meotti? I'm sure Giulio realizes it. There's not going to be peace. He writes it if they don't take and settle these issues about Jerusalem. All right, now let's look at what they're demanding now. This is October 23rd, 2015. Jimmy DeYoung's prophecytoday.com is published here. As the ongoing peace process between the Israeli and the Palestinians continues to falter, the Vatican has demanded control over the religious sites in the Old City of Jerusalem and the surrounding area, warning the peace negotiators that they must tackle the issue of the status of these holy sites. The Vatican warned that there will be no peace if the question of the holy sites is not resolved, and the sacred, unique character of these areas must be safeguarded, and it can only be done with an internationally guaranteed agreement. Again, they're stating there's not going to be peace until you give the Vatican what they want. Who is inciting the Intifada is the Vatican. This is where the violence comes from. I mean, when they have the audacity to demand control of the holy sites and then have the audacity to say, there's not going to be peace unless you do. You know, why didn't the Vatican have the decency to come to Israel and just simply say, you know, let's negotiate. We would like to have sovereignty of our own sites that, you know, we have our church here, we have this there, you know, we'd like to have control of our own space. Well, what do you need control for in the first place? You know, you don't think that your people, the Catholic people, don't come down there and bow down to all your idols and pray totally without any problems, and this is a problem for you? You want control? What do you want control? Do they not bow to your idols like you want them to? Pope Francis, are you not satisfied that all your people are allowed to go and lick the stones and kiss the stones and just worship every idol of every devil that there possibly could be? You got enough statues of Mary in the old city and all over Jerusalem and all over Israel, enough to sink the Titanic itself. I mean, this is absurd. Warning that there will not be peace unless it's an international city. Well, like Giulio Meotti said in another article there, he said they're going to evict the Jews from Jerusalem. So as long as the Catholics and the Muslims are all, you know, you're married to the Muslims anyway. Let's just face it. You are married to the Muslim religion of idolatry, the one that you formed yourself. Let's continue on. The Vatican wants Israel to relinquish the sovereignty over the Temple Mount, Judaism's most sacred site, and internationalize the city of Jerusalem, a plan that Israelis reject outright. Well, they may reject it outright, but let me say this to Jimmy DeYoung, and I appreciate him bringing this article out here, but Jimmy, do you realize that they're already internationalizing the city? They're making the infrastructure for it. Do you know that they've actually already built the checkpoint there on Highway 1? Oh, they can call it what they want. They can call it an eco bridge if they so desire, you know, but I don't think Israel has the money to spend the billions that it took to build this tunnels here for this checkpoint here just so that the rabbit could cross the highway. I mean, maybe for the tanks to sit on top of it once they get the UN force in there, that's probably the case there. Let me just quickly, I'd like to show you that just so you can see this for yourself. Since we're actually speaking of this right now. This is terrible, friends. I mean, I did not, you know, last night when Brother Chris sent this to me, it wasn't until this morning when I started to do this news here that I really began to realize the seriousness of what was said, not only in Jimmy's article here, but as well in as I begin to do a little bit of research on this and looking at the older posts there to see exactly what's going on. This right here, friends, this is what I'm talking about. Now, one side of this is completed, but supposedly they're going to put dirt over the top of this tunnel. This is Highway 1 outside of the city of Jerusalem. They are internationalizing the city. I mean, you can't get any way around it. Let me kind of make it a little bigger for you so you can get a little bit better close-up view of it. Okay? They're making this into an international city. This is they could, you know, you could call it an eco bridge all you want. They can snap it into a checkpoint at any given moment. And then Jews that want to go to Jerusalem, well, then you've got to go to the international authority and let them check your passport to get into the city. Do you not think that that's what they're going to use it for? I mean, come on, somebody needs to wake up. Anyway, it goes on to say, the demand coming from Vatican and Rome for the city of Jerusalem to be made an international zone is a page out of Bible prophecy for the last days. Recent calls from the Vatican and Rome for control of the holy sites in Jerusalem has caused concern for the political leaders of Israel. In fact, the Israeli government and the Vatican are deadlocked in discussions over the status of religious sites in Jerusalem. In question would be the Holy Sepulchre, the Garden of Gethsemane, the upper room, with the Vatican demands to have under their sovereign control. Excuse me, Jimmy, do you not know that they already got control of the whole of all of Mount Zion? It was given to them. They came in there and did a communion service in the upper room. Okay, we'll get that one up too. My gosh, let's just get them all up. We may have this one on our desktop here. Let me just see if I can find it real quick. Yes, right here. Here we go. Pope Francis, you said he wants to get control of the upper room. He's got control of the upper room. Here he's sitting right there with his crown on. He's sitting there as a king. The king of Israel. What did the Israeli government do for Pope Benedict when he was a pope? He gave us an official seat at the tomb of David. The tomb of David is the king of Israel's burial ground, and that is true. He is buried there on Mount Zion. We know that to be so. And now the king that they crowned to give him an official seat at the king's burial place is sitting there with his crown on in the upper room on top of King David's tomb. You got your king there. He's got control of it. In fact, the rabbi there that was over the David's tomb would not do an interview with me because he was afraid. And this was after he stood his ground the best he could with the Israeli government, and special forces were sent in and threw all the Jews out of King David's tomb so that the Vatican could hold themselves a communion in King David's tomb. You know, they have an obsession with death, the Vatican does. My gosh, friends, this is terrible. But anyway, kind of finishing up here, this report is indeed a page out of Bible prophecy of the end times. Daniel, the ancient Jewish prophet, reveals in Daniel chapter 9 and 11 how the revived Roman Empire will come together out of one world religion, power base in Rome, Italy. And he's right. And I might add as well, because I don't know if Jimmy knows this or not, in Daniel chapter 11, the prince that shall comes up strong with a small people. That's the Palestinians. That's exactly what's happening. Now we see in the Czech Republic, like I said before on CT24 News, they've been constantly speaking here lately over the last few days here over the Sunday law being enacted here on January 1st, 2016. Now we see that the Pope of Rome, they're now stating here, Jimmy brings this out. I'd like to be able to find out what news article he used. I don't know as of yet. I will keep working on that. But it's stating that they're not going to give you peace unless they get control of all these religious sites. And as we said about Giulio Miardi's article right here, Tehran, and Tehran, by the way, as we said before, he's a cardinal, Cardinal Jean-Louis Tehran, head of the Vatican's Council of Interreligious Dialogue, declared several days ago, and I say several days ago, this actually was in 2011 by Giulio Miardi right here, but it says that, he says, there will not be peace if the question of the holy sites is not adequately resolved. This is why we have an intifada. This is why Hezbollah is going to attack Israel from the north. This is why Hamas is going to begin to lob rockets in from their side there. And this is why there's Iranian forces in Damascus poised and ready to attack Israel from the Syrian side of the border as well. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. The Vatican is controlling the world. Somebody better wake up. You're looking for an Antichrist to come out of the Muslims or something like that. Well, you know, let me just say this before I do close the broadcast. I had a letter the other day and they said, Steve, can you tell me how the Assyrian Antichrist would be linked with the Vatican? I said, sure, it's very easy. I wrote the person back, very precious person there, and I said, the reason why you know that the Vatican is actually linked with, or you know, how could they be the Assyrian? Well, it's absolutely easy, because why? Pope Francis is a true Italian. His parents are born Italians. Do you know what Italians really are? They're mixed between the children of Esau and the children of Syria, because Hadad, the royal son of Esau, goes into Egypt, raised by Pharaoh, given what? An Egyptian daughter, a wife. He has an Egyptian wife. Now, we already know that Esau married in amongst the Muslim people as it was, or the Arabic peoples of those days there that did all kinds of idol worship, etc. Well, he takes and sends, his son gets there and survives, Hadad does, a royal line of Esau, marries an Egyptian girl, waters down that blood of Abraham even more. And then from there he goes into Syria, becomes the king of Syria, and of course all the Edomite children that are mixed with all the different Arabic races grow up right there and intermingle even some more down. So, you know, there's so tiny speck of Abraham's blood left in Esau's descendants, it's not even funny. But his royal line keeps coming down. And now his royal line is in the Vatican. In fact, in Rome, because we know, according to Obadiah, that Titus, the Roman general that sacked Jerusalem, God accuses it of being Esau that destroyed Jerusalem. And he said he stood aside and stood aloof as they ransacked his brother's city and took away his treasures. And the one that stood on the side aloof was Titus, the Roman general, just giving the commands. So therefore we know it's a Roman. And now the Romans, the Italians of today, that doesn't make Italians bad or anything like that. Anyone can accept and believe Yeshua to be the Messiah, and God would save them if they want to believe it. Same with Esau. Esau could have been a good man, but he chose to do the other way around. But what happened? Esau now is in control. And Esau is so mixed into the Muslim, the Syriac religion. Well, you know, they say he's an Assyrian. Of course he's an Assyrian. Where do you think Hadad was the king of? So he became, today, the Italian people of today are nothing but half Assyrian, half Edomites. This is why you have the Assyrian as an Antichrist as well. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You've been watching Israeli News Live. The Vatican is the cause of the Intifada. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun with Israeli News Live.